What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of This About That. I believe this is episode 17, if I'm correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're hitting that waypoint here, and I'm very excited. T. Lou, how we doing?
We're doing good. This is the first episode of October.
Yes, sir. So first episode.
That is very exciting.
Yes, well, actually, very exciting.
Technically, the first episode dropped last week. Either way, this is the first episode we're recording in October. Yep. And I decided to go with a little bit of a theme here.
Yes, little spooky theme, it seems like. And I got my boring
good stuff to bring to you guys. So let's dive right on into it.
Yeah, a ton of stuff to talk about. So pretty excited here. First thing we're going to get into is a little bit of NFL talk. Me and Tyler, for the last few weeks, we've been doing a little bit of just kind of recap on both of our teams and how they're doing and what's new, what can be improved, and, who and what needs to go. Both of our teams suffered a loss on Sunday, and I'll get into the Niners here to kind of start us off a little bit. The Niners lost 24-23 to the Arizona Cardinals. Brock Purdy went 19 for 35 with 244 yards, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. So he had his rough moments for sure. He had his rough moments. I'm not going to blame everything on him, but throwing 2 interceptions, kind of have to clean that up a little bit. His yardage and his attempts to throws caught is still not horrible. He's still playing pretty decent. Brandon Ayuk, for some reason, finally decided to show up. He had 8 receptions and 147 yards, no TDs, but I guess my brother was right. I don't know. It seems like he just has shown up in probably I'm hoping the right time. I'm hoping he just starts going on, getting on fire, because I have him in fantasy, so he can't lie. He can't hide. He can't do any of that stuff because I see it. I'm seeing how many points he's putting up in fantasy and his stats. And he went off and he did me quite well. And I was just like, I don't know. My brother's like, oh, we'll see old Brandon Ayuk. I was like, but will it stick? Will it last? And, Kittle had a decent game, 64 yards on the night. And, that's about it. The Niners is just, yet again, our defense is horrible. Our secondary is so bad. It's almost, it's really gut-wrenching watching them. It's surprising because you have Ward and then you have Hufanga there, but he can't seem to stay healthy. Ward's getting cooked.
Just to go back to the offense real quick, I'll say this about Ayuk. I think it was more or less he was struggling because he missed training camp, right?
Yeah.
Training camp goes, preseason goes. It's week 5, so it took him 4 weeks to get back to form. I mean, it's just I think it's just one of those things where it's super frustrating when your players sit out for camp because they missed all that valuable time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's dude,
he could have hurt as well now, or is he good, or what's his situation?
I have no idea. I don't think he suited up Sunday. At least I didn't hear his name being called. It was a rough game to watch. Like I said, Brandon Ayuk, I hope he's waking up now because, man, we paid him a lot. Like I said, it's one of those things where it's like you don't go to camp, you're out of shape. You're out of shape. You're out of NFL football shape. You have to go to those camps, and a lot of these guys opt out to wait to see on their contracts. But I'm like, man, guys, like you want to win, you're just hindering your team by not showing up, because this is the first game Brandon Ayuk has showed up in all season so far. And I'm hoping for the best, and I'm really hoping that they push it forward. Like I said, our defense played horrible. Our defense couldn't stop the Cardinals at all. I mean, they drove down the field and pretty much, we had a few stops, few good plays. Bosa, I think we had a few pick sixes, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Nick Bosa had one. But, our defensive line played decent, but, our secondary is really bad, and I think it's going to really bite us in the ass, going forward in the season. It's like if that quarterback has any time and he throws it down the field, I know they're going to catch it. Our guys just don't stay sticky for long enough, and I don't know why we're playing man bump with these guys. They're not good enough to play man bump. I think it just needs to be a zone coverage for the rest of the time, because I don't see us not getting cooked, man to man. Shanahan, yet again, just shows that he just can't win. This guy is pathetic. He's pissing me off. I am sick and tired of seeing his smug little fucking face on the sideline, putting his face in front of the damn playbook like this and acting like he's doing shit. And then you you lose 24-23 when you're up. We were up by, I believe, 2 scores going into the third quarter. And I'm just like, how do you manage to do this shit, man? And I'm to the point where I'm like, fire him right now, fire him tomorrow, because it's getting to the point where it's just like, I just don't think he can lead anymore. He got too complacent. He got too comfortable with his team and his talent in the last few years going to the Super Bowls, but he lost those Super Bowls. That shit starts weighing down on the coach. And now he's coming out and he's not doing shit. He's doing the same fucking bullshit where he gets nervous and he doesn't take any risk. He's just like, gets like this, like we said. And it's just, man, I don't see the Niners. The Niners are not looking like a Super Bowl caliber team. They're not looking like a playoff team. I think Joe Burrow said it about his own team in the press conference. We are not looking like a contender at all in our conference or in our division. And the Niners are in the same boat. I think we are just not looking great at all. And yes, we have a ton of injuries, but at the end of the day, man, like the Arizona Cardinals, they're 1-3 going into this game. They're fucking terrible.
Right.
And we lose 24-23. So, I am just kind of beside myself and just kind of going in with a heavy heart with this team now. And I don't know if we're going to get it done, but kind of switching over to things with the Oakland Raiders, they suffered a pretty tough loss, I believe, to the Denver Broncos. And Tyler, I'll let you get into that a little bit. I have a few stats on some guys. I know I want to talk about one player, and I'm sure you're going to be covering him soon or in detail. Brock Bowers.
Oh, my God, dude.
Love that kid.
If you're going to try to find the bright spot,
impact player.
We'll come back to that when I'm ready to be happy. It was embarrassing again, dude. Like, I've said it every week. If they come out and fight and they're competitive, I don't care if they lose. They drove down the field twice, scored twice, 10-0 to start the game. You let up a field goal, that's fine. We get all the way down to the 4-yard line, throw an absolutely awful pick six. Gardner Minshew absolutely fucking blew it. Terrible throw, overthrew Bowers. Should have been a touchdown. Now it's a touchdown the other way. 100-yard pick six by Pat Surtain.
Yep.
Killed every ounce of momentum. And after that, the Raiders players, coaching staff, everybody rolled over. And as a fan, dude, it's just like, you still see some players putting in the effort. Obviously, Max Crosby never stops putting in effort, right?
He's a leader, man.
Receivers out there, but Gardner lost all of his confidence, and then you have to go QB change, and after you've changed the quarterback, you can't go back to Gardner now as a starter. I don't think, because you had to pull him out in the third quarter. Yeah,
Gardner he's one of those guys that I think he's just gotten his opportunities, a lot of them, and it's just. The mustache luck is just fizzling out.
I really thought that with him having a full offseason and knowing that he has a great opportunity to start, he shows flashes, right? I think I talked to everybody last year before this one where I was like, hey, man, when we had let go of Carr and we were like, oh, we're getting Jimmy Garoppolo, I was like, man, I'd rather have Gardner Minshew because at least he still has promise. He's only 6 years into the league. Last year would have been 5. Still a young guy, but I really thought he was going to be, I thought he had potential to be a one of those Rich Gannon type, right? Where he can come in, career back up and turn some heads and really do well with this team. I thought we were set up to succeed with him, but he just is not that guy. He is what he is as a career backup. And that's,
he's
it's unfortunate because I'm a fan of the guy, but
sure.
I want to be put in the best position to win, right? But at this point, you don't have a quarterback that can consistently win you football games. Aiden O'Connell's not that guy. Gardner Minshew's not that guy. There's nobody out there you can go and get that can be that guy, right? So now you're in the spot where you're going to keep trying because they're not going to give up, right? Antonio Pierce is trying to keep his job. He's had it for 5 weeks. People are already calling for his head. But if they keep on winning games and you go 7-10 or 8-9 and you end up with a 13th pick, again, you're in the same situation you were in last year where all the good quarterbacks are gone by the time it's time for you to pick. Unless you make a drastic trade up into the top 8 or 10, right? Where you can grab one of those guys like a Milrow or a Ward or a Godfrey, Quinn Ewers, right? Or Shador, right? fuck, dude. Like, I don't like Shedeur Sanders. I think he's got a bad attitude. I told that. We were talking about that when your dad was on. But shit, man, I'd take fucking anything right now.
Yeah, he's not a bad quarterback.
He's not a bad quarterback. I think his issue is going to be the way he acts. And bringing him into Vegas, I think he's a little bit immature. I don't know how that works out. But, I mean, fuck it. Let's take a chance. But, I mean, like, you got to be in that top 10 range to grab one of those guys that could potentially be your future franchise player. You got to have the right pieces around him. You know, Devontae's going to be gone, which I'm kind of fine with, right? Like, we weren't going to be – before the season even started, I told your brother, I was like, hey, listen, dude, like, the Raiders are in a shitty spot because the team's not good enough to actually compete for a championship. And we've got guys like Devontae Adams who are star caliber players, and they're being paid like such. And, like, why do we even have them?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like – I'm not relieved this is all happening. I'd like to keep Devontae Adams on the team, but oh well. Like,
yeah, I know he's not happy.
Get out of there, and then you gotta, like, you're almost going to be restarting again. Like, this is the longest rebuild I think in NFL history. Like, from 2003 to now, nothing's happened. Nothing's gotten better.
Yeah,
stagnant. Like, you're just sitting in the same spot because you can't. Like, I don't remember outside of like this year with Bowers, because again, the only highlight of this team right now, other than Max Crosby, who's playing great, is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is looking like he's everything that he was hyped up to be. His best tight end prospect in years.
8 reception, 97 yards, and a touchdown against the Denver Broncos. I said it from when we first started talking about pre-draft stuff, and Brock Bowers was one of the names that come up. I mean, dude, that guy was so good at playing tight end at such a high level and so athletic and literally going up for every ball. And he's one of those guys, and it's funny because it's like, dude, he just puts his head down and works. He just wants to play football. He doesn't get in the media. He didn't get a whole lot of this, like, almost like unwanted attention. I think he got a good amount of attention and the right amount of attention. That's basically the same thing. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, the right amount of attention. You know, it's you see Shedeur and some of these other guys, and Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. Oh man, he's looking a little Mahomey. Oh, Sanders' son with another watch, or talking shit to a Colorado State player. And Brock Bowers was never that guy. And that's what the media puts on him. And he stayed out the way. He put his head down. And guess what? They were talking about his football play. They were talking about his IQ on the field. They were talking about how he was athletic. He can block. He can pass. He can get open in any situation. And you never heard anything negative about the guy. I mean, it's just, he's a great football player. And honestly, man, like he huge impact, already. And I hope he keeps going because
he's able to do it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have pieces where if we can get the right guy in the building to throw the ball, we can be successful. But it's like, where are you going to find that guy, right? Like, how many teams swing and miss on quarterbacks all the time?
Mm-hmm. Happens all the time.
Happens all the time. That when you're in the position to get the guy, right, it's the right guy. And maybe it's not. And then maybe you're picking first again next year, and then you're like, oh, well, shit, we're picking first. Might as well just take Arch Manning at this point. Like, that's the shit that you have to be careful of. It's like,
yeah, it's just like you're taking a huge risk. And here's the thing, I'm going to go back to the Niners just for a second. My thing that bothers me so much about this team is how good we have been in such recent years and can't get it done. And now we're looking at potentially going downhill. Injuries, just like we've had every single season. Injuries. We're not going to be able to sign everybody next season. It's not going to happen. Guys are going to leave. Like, where does that leave us? We're probably going to have to get a new head coach if Shanahan can't pull anything out of his fucking ass this season. And from the looks of it, it looks like we are going to make the wild card. We're going to be fighting for that wild card spot. That's where I think we're going to end up this season because it's just not looking good. It doesn't even look like we want to be out there.
Like, that's the hard part too, is that you guys
don't get anything out of it,
but you're not putting it together on the field.
Yeah, and also we don't get anything out of it being a wild card spot. We get a shitty pick, shit ass pick with all the talent that we have on our teams. It's just ridiculous.
When I'm arguing about the Niners with Zach, and he's like, "Oh, well, you guys haven't been to the Super Bowl." I'm like, "Listen, brother, I'd rather not make it to the dance knowing that our team's going to lose than go there, lose, and have the 31st pick, because we just don't get any better."
It's just been so and like at this point, I'm just like, man, like I'm so level-headed with this whole Niner situation. I'm like, dude, it could be like we could be going downhill, like basically just imploding on ourselves and being kind of the team I wouldn't say grew up watching. We did have our years but we had our years where I'm like, holy shit, we're terrible. Especially when out in my younger years, as I got a little older in my teenage years, they started really ramping it up. But
I remember,
growing up, the Niners weren't all that great. They had some really bad seasons.
What year was that Super Bowl you guys lost to the Ravens?
2011, 2012. I always forget because
2011 to 2018, you guys were bad.
I always get the year wrong because of how. Oh no, it was 20. Well, technically the season of 2012, but they played the Ravens in February, so you can pretty much say that it was 2013, but it's It's the 2012 season.
Because after that Super Bowl, you guys weren't great for a few years, right?
No, we weren't. We dropped off.
2018, you guys got Jimmy.
Yeah, we started throwing around head coaches like they were going out of style, and it just kind of was. It was kind of looking like the Raiders with how they switched from. They had what's his face, Gruden.
Dennis Allen. We went from Dennis Allen to
who's that guy? Fuck, what's his name?
He
was a local guy, wasn't he? He came to that Italian
Spagnolo, Steve Spagnolo, or something like that. No, that's not right.
What was his name? Because
I don't know.
He would come to our events, like when we played Granada football. He would come to the Campo de Bocce. What was that? What was his name, dude? Something Jack something maybe?
No. So that was after. So Tony Sperano was the interim head coach. So we went Dennis Allen, Tony Sperano, and then we went Jack Del Rio.
Yes, Jack Del Rio.
With Jack Del Rio, first year we went. That was a 12-4 season where Derek Carr was unstoppable.
That's right. Yeah. So he was a decent coach for a few years for the Raiders.
We had a good offensive coordinator. We had Bill Musgraves.
Yep.
Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He had the keys to Carr. He knew how to make
100%
work and play really, really well. Mm-hmm. The next year, for whatever reason, Carr gets injured the year before, breaks his leg, comes back. We sign him to a massive contract, highest paid player in the NFL history. We fire the offensive coordinator. Okay. And then hire some young, this guy is a great football mind, and he's going to do this, and that, and the other. He sucks it up. We go we just do terribly. It was 7-9. And then we fired Del Rio, even though he had given us the first glimpse outside of mediocrity ever in my Raider fan lifetime. Hire John Gruden, which is it's fun. We're taking it back to 98, whatever. Bullshit. He's terrible his first year. We go back to the playoffs his second year. In the following year, we have that his second year. It was that when Henry Ruggs goes to jail. Yep. He gets fired for sending out emails talking shit, which is crazy because how are you going to get fired for talking shit about somebody when they weren't even looking into John Gruden? They were looking into the owner of the Washington Commanders.
Exactly.
Because he was being racist and sexually harassing his employees. And they said, guys, I know you're pissed off at the owner of the Giant football team over here, but look what this head coach did. And everybody was like, yeah, we don't like that. So we had to fire him, undo all that hard work. We we hire the interim head coach. It was the special teams guy. God, why am I blanking on who that is? Hire him as the interim head coach. Everybody loves him. Everybody says, man, this is the guy. He could help us get better. He's a locker room leader. Nope. Fire him. Bring in Josh McDaniels. That's the beginning of the end right there. Beginning of the end. A proven loser as a head coach. sucked with the Broncos. Only good season he ever had with the Broncos when he was cheating his ass off. Comes to the Raiders, ruins everything. Everybody fucking hates the guy. Only good thing he ever did was bring in Devontae Adams. That was it.
Yeah,
he then sucks it up all year. Terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Terrible.
I mean, it's just like, I don't know what it is with.
He decides to go, hey, you guys, this isn't my fault. I didn't lose all these games. It was his fault. Benches Derek Carr. Then we get rid of him in the offseason for nothing. When we could have probably traded him for whatever, a couple picks the year before. Why would you do that? Then he goes, well, guys, come on. I'm Josh McDaniels. I've got the solution to this. Bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. He got fired like week 6 of the following year after he got his ass kicked on primetime television by the Lions.
Yep.
Promote Antonio Pierce. Finally keep the right guy. Everything fucking sucks. I hate being a fucking Raiders fan sometimes, bro. It's the most aggravating shit on the fucking planet because nobody can get their head out of their fucking ass long enough to see any goddamn success.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
sickening.
It's funny because it's like, okay, so, Las Vegas, obviously, where they're not a Bay Area team anymore, the Raiders, but, I mean, the Niners have had a good amount. It's like we had Singletary, Harbaugh, and then we have interim defensive line head coach, our defensive line coached a few seasons, and then we finally got Kyle Shanahan, and he's proven to get fired, and we're going to be on another head. I don't know what it is about Bay Area teams with the Raiders and the Niners, but I mean, like combined, we're probably at fucking close to 20 coaches.
My favorite coach for you guys in recent memory was the Chip Kelly year. That one was fun.
Yeah, I barely remember that Chip Kelly era, to be completely honest, except for his name, really. Just, I low-key forgot we had Chip Kelly, honestly, as a head coach until you just about mentioned it, because I was just like, well, he's just not built for the NFL. He needs to go back to coaching college. It was just his big name, and that's what some of these NFL teams do, dude. And then they go in, and then they had Singletary for a few years. Vernon Davis hated the fucking guy. Not to mention Singletary is probably the meanest head coach of all time. That guy was a fucking asshole.
Was that the guy who was like, can't coach with him, can't play with him, can't win with him?
Yep. And he would constantly, like, dude, he would just bash our players. He was about as cutthroat as you can get it. Literally John Gruden. But I mean, the guy was a Hall of Fame linebacker for the Bears. So he has receipts, but as far as a head coach, I mean, nobody loved playing for that guy. You can just tell that the team just hated to run out in the tunnel knowing that that was our head coach. I did not like Singletary very much as our head coach. Pretty much him and Chip Kelly. Those are probably my two least favorite. Our defensive line coach, God, I always fucking forget his name, but he's awesome. I loved him. He did what he could. But yeah, like I said, dude, Shanahan, he's probably going to get fired after the season. I don't know how much I'm just so numb to the feeling of losing big games with the Niners that I'm just over it. I'm just like, whatever happens, happens. I mean, I'm not in the front office. I'm not the head coach. I can scream at my TV drunk on Sundays every fucking week and hopefully get to one of their ears. But with that being said, we're going to move on to a little bit of hockey talk for all you hockey fanatics and real big hockey fans. I'm sure you've been following the whole Jeremy Swayman issue. Jeremy Swayman, I believe today or a few days back, signed an 8-year deal with the Boston Bruins for, I believe, $66 million over 8 years. Pretty good. Yeah, the problem –
it was $8.25 million for what is it? Is it?
I think he has 8 years, and I believe it's $8.25 million a year or something like that.
It was funny because like that. Remember that number that the owner or GM, whoever that was, threw out there was like, oh, he's got X million reasons to stay, and he was like, that was never offered to me, and then the deal went up.
Yeah. And, you look at Boston, last season, just to kind of touch on it, because Anthony's a big fan. We're all pretty big hockey fans. They were going between Ullmark and Swayman for the entire season, even in the playoffs. They just could not make a decision on who they wanted to start. I feel like Swayman would get hot, then he'd have an off game. They throw in Ullmark. Ullmark would get hot, then he'd have an off game. But that's not what the organization said, and that's the reason why Swayman wasn't really signing with them at first. Yes, Boston organization, and I don't know if it was the head coach who I just saw a few news reports about it, about how they told Swayman that the reason why they haven't signed him yet is because he wasn't clutch in the playoffs, like he didn't do a good enough job or something like that. And Swayman wrote that down, and he says he looks at it every day. And then they finally offer him a contract he really can't resist. I mean, it's a pretty damn good payout for 8 years in the NHL. And honestly, I loved both of them, but I think Swayman played just as good as Ullmark and vice versa. I mean, one of them had to go. They weren't going to be able to keep them both on. And during that time when Jeremy Swayman didn't sign, I mean, thought Montreal was going to take a swipe at him. We have Montembeault, who is the most inconsistent goaltender of all fucking time. One night he stands on his head and has 40 fucking saves, and the next night he's making.
What offer would you guys have had to make to Swayman where Boston would not have matched?
I don't even know if he had the money for it. That's why I don't think it was ever offered on the table. But
restricted free agent.
Yeah.
So they would have had the chance to offer him the same amount of money. But
yeah, I think he didn't want to also play in Montreal. For guys that
would want to.
Swayman, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Swayman is American. I forgot what college he went to. I believe he went to NCAA and not juniors. I could be wrong. If anybody knows, fact check me. But I don't think he wanted to go to Montreal. I mean, dude, it's not really. I mean, unless you get drafted there, a lot of guys don't really go there. They just don't. They don't want to, and I get it because it's kind of hard to understand, the language and the culture behind everything. But I mean, we would have probably had to match Boston, or at least put a little bit more money on the table. I mean, it would have been great signing him. I mean, the goaltending has been just very, very shaky in the last few years. We had Allen and Montembeault kind of battling out. Allen's no longer on the team. He hasn't been. I forgot where he's playing. But they keep Montembeault around. Like I said, I think this is a big signing for Boston because they kind of finally solidified their their starting goaltender and got that out of the way. And I don't know, our division is always stacked. And I think Boston's going to be pretty good again. Don't know about Montreal. I don't think Montreal is going to do anything. I think it's still going to be a few years until they make a playoff run, but they're starting to put some pieces together. And as long as we can stay healthy and people kind of keep, firing the puck at the net, man, we'll see what happens, dude. I don't think we'll make it. Maybe we'll be a little bit better than last year. I know you being, Arizona, then moving to Utah. How does the team look? And, I know we had you give one of the few players some of our custom T-shirts, which was pretty sick.
Yeah.
I was pretty excited to see that.
Yeah. So, I was a Coyotes fan. Now I'm going to follow them to Utah. I've got a good friend of mine who works for the team, so he's half the reason I even like hockey in the first place. I wasn't a big fan until he gave me some tickets to a game and went out there. My parents and stuff checked it out, and it was really fun. So became a Coyotes fan then. But the team's looking good. They had some good re-signings. Like we re-signed Dursey. We got him under contract, who I'm a big fan of, Sean Dursey. And then Keller's looking nice, obviously. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league.
Yep.
You go look at the All-Star game, right? If you saw any of that, he was just sending dimes to Matthews all game and scoring goals himself. But Logan Cooley, I think, is going to come into his own. A name that people need to start to know now. I think he's going to have a huge year is Dylan Guenther. He looks nice, man. He looked good last year in the bits he
played. He's the young kid, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He's what is he? 2 year, 3 year?
I think this is going to do his third year.
Yeah. I saw him before. I think he got drafted to Arizona, now Utah. I believe he got drafted to them, right? Yeah, I remember some hype kind of being around him, dude. He was real fast, and I was just like, man, that kid is young, but I think he's got a lot of room for potential, and he's obviously been playing pretty good. So
he was drafted 9th overall in 2021.
Okay, yeah. So a few years, still young, still fresh, still a lot of improvement there to to gain. And I'm excited to see them, dude. We might actually go up for some games. We're only like 5 hours from Salt Lake. So
I think we're going to head up there in January. So maybe we should plan something.
Dude, I'm down. That would be so cool, dude. I haven't been to an NHL game since we went.
Yeah.
What was it? Christmas break like 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was fun.
Or was it last Christmas break? Was it last Christmas break?
Oh, yeah, we did. It
was last Christmas break. Yeah, so it's been, I
think it was 2 years ago.
Was it? I don't know. I don't know. I think you might be right. But, yeah, I haven't been to an NHL game, and I know the Steelheads, ECHL is going to be starting up here. I always love going to those games. They're fun. But, yeah, we'll definitely have to get after it. And we'll probably film, too, for all you guys. If you do end up going there, we'll probably do a little vlog or something and take some good get some good content down. But kind of moving on from that, we're going to talk a little bit about MLB and the heated rivalry that the LA Dodgers and the San Diego Padres possess. Tyler, if you want to go into that a little bit and explain to people what's going on with that.
Kind of some crazy stuff yesterday, and you guys can go watch the breakdown from John Boy if you guys want to see like the whole thing. But essentially, the Padres were beating up on the Dodgers a little bit, and players in the outfield were getting into it with some of the fans. And Tatis is like giving his, and Profar is doing his thing, and like they're making fun of the fans or whatever. And fans start throwing beer at them, like launching stuff from the stands on the field and stuff like that, which just is like, I hate that. It happened last.
It's a classless act. You go to sports games and you see the shit, and it's like you paid all that fucking money to throw beer on the teams that you're fucking watching and probably getting kicked out. Was it worth it?
And then the thing that drives me crazy about the whole situation, there's like people on Twitter being like, man, I've never seen, the Dodgers and the Giants had a heated rivalry forever, and I've never seen the players treat the fans like this, blah, 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 blah. Like, and then people in the comments are like, man, y'all are acting like Dodgers fans aren't huge assholes. Which is so true. The Dodgers might have one of the worst fan bases in sports.
Mm-hmm. They're entitled.
And people are Dodgers fans are, oh no, we don't do nothing. We don't do nothing. Need I remind you that your fans beat a man almost to death. To death. Because the Giants beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, they want to sweep that under the rug, and they literally beat up a defenseless man. What was it, like 4 or 5 dudes? Like jumped
something like that.
Yeah,
like,
some outnumbered. Yeah, beat him into a coma, and
for going to a baseball game. So and then their fans do nothing but talk shit, and they're all pieces of crap. And then they have the audacity to be like, "Oh, the players are being assholes." What do you think the fans are saying to them to make that happen?
They always want to twist it, dude. The fans especially, they always want to twist the bullshit, dude. It's ridiculous.
It's the same problem that NBA players have. Like NBA players get painted as these bad guys. Like, oh man, Kevin Durant was screaming at this fan in the stands or whatever. Yeah, because the fans are overstepping and they're calling Kevin Durant.
They're going personal. And they're going personal every time, and then they expect it. Oh, I didn't say that.
And they get a reaction.
Yeah, exactly. It's bullshit. And then they're like, oh, they're getting kicked out, and they're like, hands up. What did I do? I was just like, bro, we have the receipts. They have you quoted on exactly what you said. You guys all go personal, and this is why these players react a certain way. I'm all for the shit talking. I mean, it happens in every level of sport, dude. But there becomes a point where it's just like you're going way over the line. And the only one that I really loved was when that one lady called LeBron a pussy ass bitch. I fucking love that. That shit was funny as hell. I'm sorry. Some people might not agree with that, but I thought it was hilarious. But it's just like, dude, some of these fans just go beyond. I'm like, you guys are paying these people. Your tickets are going towards their fucking salary. You are paying to go in and talk shit to your players, opposing players, and you're paying their salary. And then you're getting kicked out for what? I've been to so many sporting events. Guys kicked out. Niner game. Guys kicked out. Ran on the field. Got tackled by
did you see
Adrian Peterson. Raider games.
The one at UFC. It was like the guy was like talking shit to Marab, and Marab like climbed the barricade and went up there, and the guy was like, no.
Yeah, dude. I'm just like, what do you expect these guys to do? And I've seen it firsthand. Like I said, Raider games, Niner games, all these dudes chunking it out for no reason. I'm like, you guys literally paid all that fucking money for nothing. For nothing, and you're probably not going to another game this season. It's always the people that are the one and done. They don't have season tickets.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why do you do that? It's just
that's like one thing, dude, is like I am getting better about like I still get super angry, but I don't really let the Raiders ruin my day anymore. And it's like because I can see like on the field, the Raiders just lost to the Broncos, and they're like hugging it out and like laughing about something with the other players. Like I'm not saying that the players don't care. What I am saying is like losing clearly doesn't affect them as much as it affects me, and they're getting paid. So like why am I gonna get all pissed off and like have a bad fucking day if I care more? I'm not saying I care more. That obviously they do it professionally and they want to win a championship, right? But like why is it affecting me more when they lose than it is the players? So that's why I've kind of started to be a little bit better about that. I'm still
exactly. I've just kept a level head. Like I've been obviously pissed off about some games this season, but most of the time I'm just like, whatever. You know, there's nothing I can do except for root for my team. But yeah, you know, it's just crazy, especially happening in the outfield in the MLB. And it's just like, man, like these guys just can't let their team just play. They just cannot watch a game in peace. And it's just, it's ruining sports. And I've always hated it. I mean, I've always liked the shit talking. But it, like I said, it always comes to a point where you're just crossing the line. But yeah, with that being said, we're going to move on to our last topic, which is covering a little bit of college football. This past weekend, for all you college football fanatics, it was a weekend to watch for sure. Obviously, I love college football. It's probably my favorite sport. The upsets that really kind of caught my eye, obviously everybody knows about Vanderbilt beating Alabama. I think that is the funniest thing to ever happen to Alabama ever, and those fans at Alabama deserve every bit of it. Vanderbilt, I believe, has not beat Alabama in football since like 1984. I don't know if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I saw a statistic where it was somewhere really something crazy. 40-35. And let me tell you, dude, about the kid that they have at quarterback, dude. Diego Pavia. Okay, a little bit of backstory on this kid. I've been following him for a few years. He played at New Mexico State prior to going to Vanderbilt. He was their third string, and I believe before that he kind of got overlooked by most teams when he was in high school, and I believe he went the JUCO route before going to New Mexico. When he got to New Mexico, I believe he said he was the third string guy, and first and second guys were fucking up. He gets his chance, and he absolutely explodes on the scene. He's one of those guys that's just not super big, but he just puts his body on the line every single time, and he has a pretty good arm for how small he is. I mean, he had a phenomenal throw to one of their receivers, actually a few phenomenal throws, and obviously getting it done on his feet. And just kind of looking at the season for him, he's got 105 attempts and 973 yards with 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. 0 interceptions. That's what I really look at. That big fat goose egg right at the interceptions, and he's on course to being definitely one of the better QBs. I think in Power 5, man, he's definitely making a name for himself, and that's a huge win for them. They ended up taking the goalpost down and walking across Broadway, which I think is the funniest shit ever, because I'm like, dude, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, man, this is huge. It's massive for college football. I mean, having the number 1 team go down and going against arguably probably the worst SEC football program year in, year out since the dawn of time. They're not super talented, but they're well run. And Alabama they could not stop that offense. They kept playing like these power I and stacking and having two leading blockers and the quarterback and then the running back behind them. Lead blocks, getting as many tight ends, as many hands in the dirt as they could. And Alabama is not used to that. They weren't used to that, and they just got straight up steamrolled. A huge win for Vanderbilt, and it shakes up a lot of things in college football. The other game that I was kind of there's a few
on that Alabama game.
Sure,
Saban would have never lost.
No, he wouldn't have. Because he wouldn't have. He talks about Vanderbilt all the time, and people are like, "Oh man, but they lost." I was like, "But they never lost under his watch." Not once. I mean, when you have a coach screaming at their players and it's the fourth quarter and you're up 45-7 against Vanderbilt. That's accountability. He's making sure those third and fourth stringers are not fucking up, because when their name is called, eventually, maybe that season or the next season, he wants them to be ready, and that's what a good coach does.
Yeah.
The one another guy,
Diego said this. It was hilarious, but or I think it was Diego or somebody. Somebody said Saban would have had number 13 at Last Chance University. He was throwing an all-time pissy fit. That was like an absolute breakdown temper tantrum.
Guy would have been playing at Independence, Kansas the next season if I had anything to do with it. And that goes back on the coaching.
Captain, and the defensive coordinator said, "Hey, you need to sub out. You're out of control." And he waved off the coach. He said, "Go fuck yourself."
Fuck that. Yeah, no way. If I was coaching, bro, I would have had that kid's fucking ass, dude.
And as a coach, if you don't do anything about that,
these players are just gonna walk over you. And this is the culture now at Alabama. These entitled fucking players. I'm telling you right now, they're gonna walk all over this coach, and he's gonna let it happen. He waltzed into this job knowing the players that he's gonna have, and he's like, "Oh, it's gonna be fine. It'll be fine. I'm at Alabama. What can go wrong? Oh, what can go wrong? You just lose to one of the worst." Probably one of the worst college football teams ever, and they took the goalpost down and stormed down probably one of the busiest streets in the United States. Yeah, and it's just like it's embarrassing for Alabama, but
that's the thing too is like, again, going back to it, I complained about it. It seems like every episode, if you weren't paying these kids, they wouldn't be acting like this.
I'm telling you.
They got money now. Now they don't need to try.
Yeah, it's just like this goes to show you. And Kirby Smart from Georgia said it best. He literally said, he's like, "This is the SEC. Like it's going to be tough every week in and week out." And that goes into my next game, Tennessee at Arkansas. Number 4 Tennessee went into Arkansas. They lost 14-19. And that was almost a pretty big trap game, I think, for Tennessee. Sean kind of called it beforehand that, this is a game that the Vols will probably screw up, and they did. Former Boise State quarterback Taylor Green had himself a pretty good game, dude. He went. I
was just about to bring him up.
19 for 27 and 200.
You guys would be right now if you still had it.
The problem is that here's the issue.
Could you imagine the read option with him and Genty?
It would probably be insane, but our head coach and him just never. The head coach Avalos and him just never clicked, never got along, and the offense I just don't think fit him very well. And I think his best shot was obviously entering the transfer portal, and he's doing pretty good. Like I said, 19 for 27. I believe he had 266 yards on the day. And he played phenomenal, and he rallied, and they also took down the goalpost. And Arkansas Twitter's on fire, and Tennessee fans, they are not happy. But, I mean, that was a huge win for them. Arkansas is a tough place to play on the road. But the one other game that I want to kind of highlight is USC losing to Minnesota, 24-17. This is just a USC type of loss. It's just Minnesota waltzed in at home and beat USC. Ranked team, ranked opponent, and Minnesota fans had a heyday with USC. After the game, I saw this video of this kid videotaping himself on the field after they stormed it, and he's like, "Get your pussy ass out of here," and he's yelling at all these USC fans, "Welcome to the Big Ten," and all this shit. And I just found it funny because it's just a USC thing to do. Like, I just think it's them. Like, they just waltzed in. They thought they were way better than Minnesota, and they got punched right in the mouth. And I think that's going to be kind of a reoccurring thing for them with these teams that are not getting a lot of recognition. But you got 5-0 Indiana too. You got some other teams that are still looking pretty decent. I mean, Nebraska's not bad. Rutgers is not bad. The Big Ten is shaking up to be, a pretty prized final finish here. But
and then, question as well, just to get what your opinion on this.
Yeah,
I know they didn't play this last weekend. Does Quinn Ewers get the ball back when he gets back from injury?
I don't know.
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen there. I think Arch Manning is balling.
They're both phenomenal quarterbacks. They're up there for they're probably the best 1 and 2 quarterback in the nation. And I think this is a huge opportunity for Manning to step up into his role and to prove, because I wanted to see what he can do against some actual competition. And I think, they got Oklahoma coming up, and we'll talk a little bit about Oklahoma. They got Oklahoma coming up in the Red River. I think they should start Manning. I think they should leave Quinn Ewers out of it, and I think they should give him a shot against,
Now, are you saying that
rivalry like that?
Oklahoma fan who's hoping that you guys win this game and you want Manning to start, or are you saying that because you think that's actually Texas' best option?
I think with just the injury, with how long Quinn Ewers been, he's been out for a few weeks now, and I think it's just right to give the kid the start. If he starts playing like shit, fuck it, you got one of the other better quarterbacks in the nation playing. So it's just like, if he does do shit, you can just switch right back to Ewers. But I think just looking at it, I think the kid deserves to start. But yeah, going into Oklahoma, and this will be our last, I believe, topic for the day. And it's kind of a weird one, but we were kind of looking at Oklahoma versus Boise State and how that would pan out. Hypothetical matchup, which it's funny because with how much there's a slight chance that they could end up playing each other in the playoffs, but I know for a fact Oklahoma, with their schedule, they're not gonna win all their. They play LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, Missouri. There's no way they're winning all 4 of those games. They're going to lose at least 1 or 2 more, and that's probably going to push them out of the race. I just don't think we have the injuries are kind of getting after us, and we just have a lot of young talent right now. But just impact players. Just looking at it, we have Deion Burks. Unfortunately, he's one of our really good wide receivers, and he is day-to-day right now. He's injured. Jaleel Farouk is also injured. Those are basically our 1 and 2 guys at wide receiver.
You got to specify for me because you're a fan of both teams, and I don't know much about college football. So what team are we talking about right now?
Sorry, I'm talking about Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah. So Deion Burks, he's a wide receiver for Oklahoma. He has 26 receptions and 201 yards on the season so far. He's been pretty damn good in all the games. So you hear his number being called quite a bit, and I really like him. He's fast. He gets open. He's got good hands, but he's kind of day-to-day. Jaleel Farouk, he's kind of been out the entire season. I believe he only has 1 reception for 40 yards. I think he played one snap damn near, or a few snaps. And those are our best. Those are our best wide receivers right there. So having those, both of them potentially being out and one of them, being day to day, it just kind of scares me a little bit because we also have that freshman starting at QB over Jackson Arnold, which I think is a huge move. He let our team down and he won us that ball game on the road against Georgia. Kind of just looking at our running backs, we haven't been running the ball too much this season. I think just being kind of beat up on the offensive line. It's not really giving us a whole lot of opportunities, but I think we're going to have to run the football. We have to establish the run this weekend. We have Barnes and Sawchuk, 2 pretty decent running backs. They just got to get their number called a few more times. And then kind of looking on the defensive side, I'm very, very, very proud of our defense as of recently. Danny Stutzman, arguably one of the better linebackers in the nation. Number 28 for Oklahoma. He has 40 tackles on the season. He's great. We got Billy Bowman, safety for Oklahoma. He's also a huge impact player. They just work in sync. It's great. You got Mason Thomas, one of our defensive ends. He had 3 sacks against Tulane. He has 5.5 sacks on the season, and he's balling out. The kid's fucking great. Deshaun Terry is another guy I want to talk about just a little bit. He's the interior guy, number 95. He's a big boy. He plugs up that metal and he does his job, and I love seeing that guy play on Saturdays. He is a phenomenal football player.
He's a beans and grits kind of player.
Yeah, dude, he just gets after it, man. He doesn't record a whole lot of solo stats, but he's in on pretty much every tackle, especially in that, in the gaps and stuff, and he does his job. And then you got Jennings as well. He's one of our DBs. I don't talk about our DBs very often just because in recent years we just haven't had it. Our secondary is looking good. And as far as comparing that, with Texas coming up this week, I think it's going to be, I'm hoping a shootout game. It could be a blowout too. We just have so much uncertainty everywhere. But the $1 million question is, if them and Boise State were to match up, I think it would be a phenomenal football game. I really do. I think it would honestly come down to probably the wire. And I mean, you got Ashton Genty on the one side. I mean, the guy's he can play against any defense.
I would be rooting for Boise in that matchup just because I think there's a lot of people who hate on Genty as the Heisman favorite because
they hate him.
They're like, he's not playing against some real talent like the SEC. He's not doing this. He's not. I would just love for him to go in there and play one of those like better SEC teams and just do what he does.
153 yards, 2 touchdowns against Washington last year at Washington, and he was just kind of getting his feet on the ground. 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against Oregon at Oregon, and they ranked number 7. Washington State, he had 4 touchdowns and 268 yards. I don't know what else you want from him. I mean, those are all Power 5 schools. Both Washington and Oregon were ranked, and we played them both on the road, and he played fantastic. And that was
the problem with that. That's not SEC ball. That's what everybody really wants. That's what everybody really wants to say.
I'm telling you, and I'm just like
SEC teams. Like people act like SEC is the only division.
Well, people act like they're unstoppable, and where I was like, okay, well, after this weekend, I doubt it.
Yeah, they were stopped last year by the mighty Michigan Wolverines.
And it just baffles me, dude. And it's just like, dude, with the offensive line he's going against these Power 5 programs and still putting up better numbers than anybody across the country. Walterman, Vanderbilt beat Bama. Texas A&M, who sucks, beat fucking Missouri. Ole Miss lost a bad one against Kentucky. Kentucky beat Georgia. I mean, like, dude, any given Saturday, I don't give a fuck what you say. I really think if he went in to an SEC game, which is more than likely at this point with the playoffs, we're going to have to play an SEC team. I still think he's going to do good. I think we're going to rally. We're going to have to throw some tricks down our sleeves. I think our secondary really needs to step it up. We're one of the worst secondaries in the nation, and it's really tough. Our defensive line is solid. They're fast. I really think they can get to those SEC quarterbacks and make some havoc because they're quick. They're quick off the ball. They're not huge. They're quick. And I think our tight end is phenomenal. He's definitely he's probably top 10 in the nation. Tight ends, he's great. And you do this quick shit, I think you give us a chance, man. I'm not really afraid of the SEC as being a Boise State fan, but if they were to play Oklahoma, I think it would be a shootout, man. I think our defense would have their hands full, but you got Ashton Stutzman and Bowman on the one side, who are, phenomenal tacklers. I think it would be a great battle, and I think they would definitely get him a few times. But, is our offense going to be able to compensate for how much our defense is going to go through? And that's the big question mark for me, is if our young quarterback could lead us against Boise State. And if we had to play at Boise State, I mean, that's a hostile environment, dude. That place gets fucking loud. And I honestly, being unbiased, being fans of both teams, I think it would be a hell of a matchup between those two. And I think it would go down to the wire. I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses, and, both teams are going to pivot off that. And but I see it going down to the wire. I really do see it being a good game. Yeah. But with that being said, I believe that is all we have tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Like always, thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share, go on our website, get some merch. And like I said, we really appreciate you guys being here and tuning in every week. And hopefully you guys will like this episode. I know I did.
And if you guys don't buy some t-shirts, my rent's not getting paid.
Yeah, I mean, rent can't be that high. Well,
it is. It's getting dark.
It's getting dark and scary and gloomy.
$2 on a bottle of Smirnoff. Okay?
Yep.
I need this.
It's getting rough. So go out there and buy some merch. Help us out a little bit. We'll see you guys next week.